What do you bring to the table? Do you even own a table? Can you spell table? Can you set and lay a table? Chimakla.
The seemingly unending war between women who are part of a certain woman's movement and men who could be labeled as misogynists appears to be about to reach a climax. I, for one, am overjoyed about it because I think that a lot of the individuals involved in this conversation are simply there to perpetuate hatred. Like little kids on the playground pointing at each other and making fun of each other. They're really not here to try to come to what would be a good resolution for everyone on both sides. And so we're going to get into a video, and this particular rhetoric that's expressed in this video is absolutely what I'm talking about. You'll see. And what I want you to do is as the video goes along, try to see if the premise of what this sister is speaking about is a premise that comes from good faith. If it does not, we'll talk about that also. But before we get into the video, I want to send a shout out to Pink Book Lessons. Absolutely a wonderful channel, and the commentary is always objective, unbiased, and truthful. And that's something that I really appreciate. She gives a woman's perspective. And so what we're going to do, we're going to answer a particular video that she did with a man's perspective. And so let's get into the video and see what we can find out, okay?
Something really interesting to me about the question, what do you bring to the table, is that in real life, no man has ever asked me that question, because men who know who they are, where they're going, and men who actually have something to offer women don't tend to ask that question. They can detect the...
All right, here we go. So she's beginning to start. I'm going to start also. So now, the men that she's describing, these men evidently have worked hard to acquire resources that will be in preparation for having a family, a wife and children, or for having a comfortable life, a life where the difficulties that are involved are kept at a minimum. These particular individuals are intentional. They're individuals that are given to thinking about what they're doing and preparing themselves for the future. So she has laid the premise that men of value don't ask this question. But is that true? Let's keep going.
Value a woman brings to their life from one simple conversation, one brief encounter, one phone call conversation, one date, they can already tell for themselves that she's smart, she's intelligent, she's charismatic, she's fun, she's adventurous, she's somebody I think I want to spend more time with. It is usually men on the...
Wow. Off of one encounter, one phone call, one date. Listen, off of one, this person is absolutely still a stranger. So how can you tell that you want to have a long-term committed relationship with this person off of one encounter? Does that even make sense to you? Now, I'll give you the notion that maybe in one encounter, you can discern that this may be a person that you want to get to know. But this is all about the pros and the cons of involving someone in your life. Your life. So it has to be something that you approach wisely and cautiously, because if you involve the wrong person, then this will have an impact on you for the rest of your life. So it's not a situation where men of value are not asking this question. That's not the point. And if it's a situation where she's never been asked that question, could it be that these men of value around her don't consider her an appropriate prospect? Let's keep going with the video.
Who have absolutely no prospect, no significant educational achievement, absolutely nothing to offer women because they have such backward mindsets. They are the ones who tend to ask these questions, and they usually ask it to women who are way out of their league. What do you bring to the table?
All right. So first of all, we're not going to do that. That's something we're not going to do. If you look at most of the gentlemen in the manosphere, most of my brothers, you'll find that there's a common thread. And that thread is that we are absolutely educated. Absolutely. Most of the men who have platforms where they're speaking out and advocating for men are absolutely educated. Me, myself, I'm an electrical engineer. I've been practicing my profession for 13 years, so let's not do that, okay? Let's not allow shame and insults to come into this particular discussion, because there's nothing else that you can say that will prove your point. So that's what you allow yourself to devolve into, to calling individuals names, to being negative. We don't have to do that. If you have a problem with that particular question, what you bring to the table, at least take the time to enunciate clearly why it is you have this problem. Because right now, the only thing she's doing is allowing her emotions to have vent. And as I mentioned now, anyone, man or woman or child, it would be the best thing to look at a situation and try to come up with the wisest solution to it. Because usually the wisest solution is the best. It has the best outcome. So anytime that you're involved in a situation, that's the question that you're entertaining. What will this decision that I make, what will be the pros and the cons of it? And that's what that question means. What do you bring to the table? Basically, it means who are you and what are your intentions? That's what it means. And anyone who's about to get into anything, especially in relationships or marriage, you need to know. You need to know who a person is, and you need to know what their intentions are, so that you can make sure that their intentions and who they are line up with your intentions and who you are. So it's not an insulting question. It's not a question that questions someone's character or their intelligence. It's a question that should be asked anytime you're considering an individual to be a part of your life. That's what the question is about. I don't know what she's talking about. Let's keep going in the video.
Do you even own a table? Can you spell table? Can you set and lay a table? Shimakla.
Okay. So before we get into the final thoughts on the video, and you know I absolutely have some, once again, I want to send a shout out to Pink Book Lessons, man. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Her content, as I mentioned, is always objective, it's always unbiased, it's always truthful, and we need more of that. So now on to the final thoughts for this particular video. I think that in looking at the video, I would have to say that the premise that this sister has reached is absolutely unfounded. The question of what you bring to the table is not one that's meant for disrespect. That's not what it's about. It's not about that. The question has to do with what are the pros and the cons of involving you in my life. That's all it is. All this outside rhetoric about individuals who ask the question and whether or not they're whether or not they have college degree, whether or not they have a sufficient amount of education, whether or not they have any value themselves to bring. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. Instead of looking at the situation and trying to find something wrong with it, do you understand that any decision that you make should be a situation where you are involving the pros and the cons of that particular decision that you're getting ready to make? This could be a lifelong situation if you choose in error. If you make the wrong decision, you may suffer for years to come because of the decision that you make. So why not ask a person, what do you bring to the table? Who are you and what are your intentions? Now, as we mentioned, now there's absolutely nothing wrong with meeting a person and then the first encounter, you see that you all may share a chemistry. You may click, as it were. And based upon that encounter, you want to take the initiative to get to know that person better. Right? But there's absolutely no way in the first encounter that you're going to be able to tell if this particular person sitting across from you would be a good match for you for a long-term committed relationship. Y'all don't even know each other. You don't. But I think it would be a kindness if, as individuals, we can enunciate what it is that we bring to the table. What are the attributes that I have that could quite possibly help in a person's life? And what are the difficulties that I have within myself that could cause other individuals hurt and pain? I need to be able to enunciate what those things are. And I think that's fair. That's fair. Because as individuals, we ought to be able to do that. Right? You know what you struggle with. You know what your attributes are. So why take a person through this long, drawn out process? Why not just be upfront at the beginning? And that way I know whether or not I should continue to invest resources and time and effort into a relationship with you, or I'm aware now that I don't need to invest any more time, any more time, energy, or resources in you. I think that's a fair thing to do, because you wouldn't want those things to be wasted, and then the end result is that you're not compatible with this particular person, right? So I think the whole rhetoric behind this is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Because as I mentioned, any decision that you make, you want to enter into that decision with the wisest course that you possibly can, because if you do that, then it's going to have the best outcome. And then you notice that throughout the conversation that she was having, the undertone of the conversation was absolutely negative. It absolutely was. So you mean to tell me that in a situation where you all are trying to get to know each other so that you all can pair up successfully for a long-term committed relationship, namely marriage, you're telling me that it's wrong for me to want to know what I'm getting myself into? It's wrong for me to want to know whether or not there's something that you're dealing with that I can't deal with, that I don't want to deal with. That's wrong. Well, if that's wrong, then that means that individuals who are taking this particular approach, those individuals are wrong too. But tell me why in the past it worked so well. Why did it work so well? Because there were communities built, stronger families, individuals had more self-esteem, and things were just generally better for our community when it was apparent that there was value in each person. It was apparent. But now, as I mentioned, because of this war between the sexes, neither one will acknowledge the value of the other. And so there's not much emphasis being placed on coming up with a solution as to how we are going to deal with each other. The emphasis has been placed on meaningless arguments back and forth that won't result in anything that's going to promote progression. It's not. And this video is just one in a long line of videos that you can see on YouTube or in social media that's promoting that very same rhetoric. A rhetoric that's not going to help. It's absolutely not. Because in being compatible with a person, what does education have to do with it? What does education have to do with whether or not this person possesses the qualities that will make them a good wife, or the qualities that will make them a good husband? Because you see, in the past, there were men who in our community didn't have much education, but they absolutely provided for their families. And the wife and the children admired the father. They admired this man. And he didn't have much education. So what does education have to do with it? See, that's what I mean. In the midst of all of this drama, we've forgotten what's important. We've forgotten the things that our grandparents and great-grandparents knew all too well. And I think that until we get back to that, we're going to continue to have these meaningless conversations that don't result in anything. Well, that's my thought on the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, man, be easy.